games that do the best. God damn these fucking Mexicans ruining my fucking show! Anyway.
He's got the leaf blower out now.
What the fuck?
I think they heard you in this.
Good evening, everybody. We are here for the State of the Union address, which I'm sure is going to be an epic shit show. I'm going to watch it with you and give my colorful commentary. But first, let me just remind everybody that I'll be around tomorrow for the Morning Constitutional on the Morning Constitutional YouTube channel and all of the platforms that me and TFM usually broadcast to. Also, everybody, it is my birthday today. I have 45 years on this planet, and yeah, we'll see how the next 45 go, if there even are 45 more. But if you want, you can tip, you can ask questions, you can super chat. Let's see if we could do it. I think what we all want to really kind of know is coming up, and what everyone's kind of waiting for is, will Joe Biden like basically shit himself on camera tonight or anything like that? That's what we really want to know. That's what we're here for, you know. But as you can see, Kamala Harris and Speaker of the House McCarthy are sitting here waiting. We're just waiting for the entrance of the President of the United States. I love how I have the closed captioning on the stream I'm watching, and I love how YouTube censors the word shit, because after all, you know. But so I'm here. I think there's a couple points, and as soon as Biden shows up, I'll just kind of stop talking, and we'll start watching, and whenever they do clapping or whenever I see a chance for commentary, I'll just hit pause or something like that. But just to put a couple points into play, a couple statistics that are very interesting. You're going to hear tonight Biden is going to really, really harp on the fact that he's created so many jobs and that we're basically at full employment. Now, this is 100% bullshit. We're not at unemployment. Okay, this is the first time in history that over 100 million people, right, were out of work for more than a year. But also the highest number of people in America aren't even looking for work. Unemployment numbers are down because the people that are willing to work are working, and the people who aren't willing to work and are just accepting welfare or anything like that, they're basically just not being counted. Like, they're not considered unemployed, they're considered not going to be employed. So we have that. We have the idea that we know some of the things that we're going to hear tonight. Biden is going to call to ban assault weapons. I do not believe he'll bring up the new pistol brace rule. I don't think he'll take credit for that, because then if and when it gets turned over by the court, I don't think he wants to look stupid. Also, it's too hard to explain to people. So no, I really don't believe that he's going to talk about the pistol brace rule. He might talk about Bruin and talk about how the Supreme Court, you know, left us in danger because now more people are allowed to carry guns and things like that. But I do not believe that he'll bring up most things. But he is going to bring up that he wants an assault weapons ban. He's absolutely going to bring up. Oh, I think they're coming to order. Let's listen in for a minute.
The gentlewoman from New York, Mrs. Stefanik. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Hudson. The gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer. The gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Johnson. The gentlewoman from Oregon, Mrs. Chavez DeReamer. The gentlewoman from Virginia, Mrs. Kiggins. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries. The gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Clark. The gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar. The gentleman from California, Mr. Liu. The gentlewoman from Washington, Del.
Now, there is some interesting stuff that's just really cool history. This is the only time of year, unless a special session is called, where all of the entire government is in one place at one time. So remember, the entire line of succession is there in one building. So if there were an attack, or if there were, God forbid, a disaster and all of them were to get killed, there's one member of the cabinet that if you pay really close attention, you can see who it is. I don't really care, but most people don't care. But there's one member of the cabinet who's right now flying around in the sky basically on Air Force One with the nuclear suitcase, in the event that all of the entire government gets wiped out tonight in being in one place. I always found that kind of interesting.
Minnesota, Ms. Klobuchar. The senator from Wisconsin, Ms. Baldwin. There she is. The senator from Kentucky, Mr. McConnell. The senator from South Dakota, Mr. Thune. The senator from Wyoming, Mr. Barrasso. The senator from West Virginia, Ms. Capito. The senator from Iowa, Ms. Ernst. The senator from Montana, Mr. Daines.
The members of the escort committee will exit the chamber through the lobby doors.
Stand.
Yeah, what's interesting is that they're not going to actually bring up anything that anyone gives a crap about. And that's the part that really does suck, is they're not going to bring up... Oh, here we go. I didn't hear who those people are, but obviously they're either guests or a couple of them are judges. They're probably going to introduce the Supreme Court now, who it's funny because the Supreme Court's not even allowed to clap and shit like that because they're not allowed to show that they're partisan, which is kind of stupid. So I don't think they're going to really talk about much, and normally I don't really care about doing stuff like this anyway, but it is fun to just watch sometimes. And it was a good excuse to come on board and talk, and, you know, that, I mean, Mad Hatter Matador, that's exactly what I'm saying is, I bet you, and this will be something we'll probably talk about tomorrow and things like that, is that if Biden were to walk up to that pedestal, shit himself, run up and start sniffing AOC while he dry humped Rashida Tlaib, I bet you that the narrative in the paper, in the news tomorrow will be, you know, Biden had a few gaffes, but at the same time, the mean looks he got from all the Republicans were what really matters. You know? But it is good to see, because you know what? Like, listen, if you're part of the prepper community like I am, or if you're part of any other kind of, community, it's good to know, like, where are their priorities? What are they coming for next? What are they going to be prioritizing? Because these are the warnings that we're going to have to look for, and it does suck, but at the same time, it's what we got to do. And now, this is they call this the escort committee. Like, these are basically the people.
Mr. Speaker, the Chief Justice and Associate Justices of the Supreme Court.
Now, what'll be interesting is to see if usually what happens is that people don't clap for these guys. Like, it's usually becomes like kind of a nonpartisan thing where they don't clap for them. I think they're clapping for them now because the right has to clap, because after all, they got rid of Roe v. Wade and all of that, and the left has to basically clap because of the new black woman, the midget right there. They have to do it because after all, now that there's a black woman on the court, at this point, you just have to hope for something. You know what was interesting about the China balloon? I saw a Department of Defense briefing today. They said it had enough explosives on it that were the size of a jet airliner. It had a payload that was capable of something like 200 tons. So, I mean, I guess it's hard to see how big it actually is from the pictures because it was 60,000 feet in the air. But man, and the thing was loaded with actual explosives. Biden was afraid it might damage, the woods in Montana. But again, this whole speech is just basically a giant circle jerk. There was a long time where it wasn't even. Oh, look at Jill Biden. I don't know why it is that all Democrats seem to be married to women that come off as men. Even before being a tranny was kind of cool. They all dress and look like old men. I wonder if Hunter Biden's going to turn up. I don't think they'll allow the optics of it, because normally he would be there, but you never know. I mean, for all I know, he will turn up. Joe Biden is one of those people. He's not shy about what he does. He's not going to be embarrassed, shoving these things in people's faces that he got away with whatever they want. Quiet ripples through Congress.
Mr. Speaker, the President's Cabinet.
Now, as I said, I don't know, and I don't pay attention to his cabinet enough to give a shit, but there is going to be one person who's absent in the cabinet right now, and he's chosen at random. They don't make a decision on who it's going to be. But there's one person in the cabinet who's missing right now because, as I said, he's in Air Force One or Air Force Two right now, flying around at 30,000 feet with the nuclear suitcase in the advent that, a Chinese balloon or a Russian missile or an earthquake or something takes out our entire government right here. But, I mean, this is basically like the who's who of the World Economic Foundation walking in the room right now. These are the people who have decided to be the front line of the attack on America. And no, most of his cabinet actually isn't Jewish, but there are some notable ones. I think Blinken is Jewish, I think Garland is Jewish, and I think Yellen is Jewish. Most of the others aren't. A good portion of them are Catholic. But no, the balloon has been a warning. In fact, they've said that the balloons have been coming for quite a while. They said that they came during Trump's time, which then it turns out that they didn't even know they were balloons during Trump's time. They thought they were something, but they didn't know what. And even if they did, when they did figure it out, they didn't tell him that. So there's nothing he could have done about it. But they're saying that this is actually a real thing. you know, like, it's a balloon program is not like, you would think that you could just do everything you want with satellites, but it doesn't work that way, you know. So no, I mean, Mayorkas isn't the one who's allowing everybody in. It's Biden who's letting everybody in. This is not like an undemocratic thing. It's not like part of the cabinet is arguing. I didn't know Mayorkas was Jewish, actually, but it's not the cabinet that's arguing for unfettered immigration, and half of them are arguing not. Like, this is a Democratic priority, regardless of who is in charge. It's actually quite a Republican priority too. The only reason why Trump was so successful is because he bucked the system and to stop calling for illegal migration. The Republicans, they call for the same migration, they just let them all in legally. When they get to the border, they just give them a temporary work visa or something like that, and then just let them in. So this isn't a case of you know, one side is anti-immigration, one side is pro-immigration. They're all pro-immigration. And only because Trump had such success in being anti-immigration is why. And I have no idea why Kristen Sinema, who's not the ugliest woman in the room, like, why she dresses like that. Because she always dresses like that. And I mean, I don't care how, like, whatever it sounds. She seems to have the fashion sense of, like, a 70s porn star. You know, I mean, they claim she was the first bisexual senator ever elected. She might actually wind up being the saving grace in Arizona for the Senate race in 2024. If you give a shit about elections in 2024, I kind of don't. But because she's being challenged, she's now an independent. She's going to be challenged from the left by a progressive Democrat. There's a decent chance that they split the vote. The only question is, will there be enough Republicans who kind of like her independentness and go over to her too? But I mean, Arizona's basically a fallen state right now. Same thing with Nevada, same thing with Pennsylvania. Like, they were able to cheat there enough that now they can just make the cheating permanent. They're all on the edge of their seats. They're waiting for the one man who could save the republic. The heart, the savior of America, President Children Sniffer. It's always funny how Democrats always seem to invite lots of actors. Like, that seems to be like their kind of thing. Like, I think I saw Bono there, like, which means they're going to probably point out that Bono's there because Bono's popular. But, like, it's honestly, this is a little more history. This is a giant circle jerk. Like, Washington and a few others did this speech, and then Jefferson said this is a big waste of time, especially because people had to travel from all over the country for it. And he did away with it. And the next person who did this State of the Union speech in front of Congress was Woodrow Wilson. And that was just because he liked the idea of everybody gathering around sucking his dick in public. So, like, whatever. This is not like a something that's been around since the beginning. This is whatever. And no, we don't need immigration because of a low birth rate. The idea that there's not enough people here to do the jobs that need doing, like, is ridiculous. And it's what it does show is that there's an argument that unfettered growth is necessary for a country. It's not. Like, we could stabilize a lot of different things. Salasso for $5, happy birthday. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Well, I mean, this is the part where they're just waiting for Biden, and I'm sure it's because Biden also walks ridiculously slow. You know. Oh, I think there's no doubt in my mind that they give Biden an injection of something before he comes and does these speeches. I bet you it's like a combination of, like, Adderall and, like, some kind of, like, you know, Valium or Xanax or something that, like, chills him out enough that he can't go crazy, but wakes him up enough that he doesn't, like, fall asleep there. Yes, it is my birthday today. 45 years in the books for me today. Interesting, Halsey, I think they're about to announce the president, then I'll give you...
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
Okay, so we don't care now because now he's just going to come in and shake hands for a while. But yeah, my birthday is the State of the Union. It's a very odd thing. But no, it's... No, I lost track of what I was just talking about for a minute. No, I think they definitely give him something when he comes out to do these things. I think that's why also, like, towards the end, they always have him to start talking about, like, stupid shit. So if he goes off the deep end, they can just say it was like a gaffe. But, yeah, if you want, I obviously can use the money. So if anyone can throw some donations for my birthday, I do appreciate it. Shameless no shameless begging here. But, I mean, you could just tell by looking at Biden, though, like, he normally is not this awake. He's normally not this alert. So they definitely give him something, you know, to pep him up. I don't think they give him anything. I mean, they obviously don't want him to have, like, a heart attack in the middle of Congress. They'll save that for next term. But they might just give him adrenaline. But the problem is that... that's the issue, is that they would have to do it at the very worst in the car on the way over, and then he's got like 15 minutes before the adrenaline wears off. So by the time, like, for something like this, by the time they've even gotten through the first round of, like, clapping and shit, it would be, you know, it would completely wear off. It also doesn't have like a slowdown, and it has quite a crash to it too, like a pure adrenaline shot. So I don't think... no, I don't think so. But no, because even now, like, you could tell he's got that, like, I'm about to insult a motherfucker look on his face. Like, if anyone were to come up to him right now and, like, call him Sniffy or something like that, he would call him, like, a dog-faced pony soldier or, like, some ridiculous comment like that. You could tell right now. And look, he can't resist. Like, he just gave a good little sniff to whoever that woman was, you know, got a little Ben Gay action going. And it's... No, he always looks lucid and aware at the beginning of these speeches. The issue is that who knows what they're going to give him, you know? But I definitely think they give him something. Yeah, and again, you could tell, like, A, his cognition starts going down, and B, he feels the need to wander off on every speech where he starts telling people that, like, he used to be a truck driver, or that he got arrested with Nelson Mandela, or things like that. Like, I think... Those are when whatever they give him starts to wear off and starts to, you know, like, kind of go. But it could just be Ritalin. I don't know. Like, I'm just... My thought is they wouldn't want him to... They wouldn't want him to just die of a heart attack. Not during his first term. They'll want him to do that during the second term. I think more and more all of us had the right idea. They do want him to bow out. But I think they want him to get elected to the second term first. Because then if it's Kamala Harris, which it probably will be, and she becomes president, she can still run for 2 more full terms if he bows out during the second year of his second term. And the way they're pushing it to be him versus Trump, I think if it's him versus Trump, you're going to see that the polls are even through the whole thing, and just add a little bit of cheating to it, and they'll be fine for him winning another term. So I think Biden's the man that they're going to nominate in 2024. But I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think they're willing to put a person like Newsom up there. He's too obnoxious. He's too elitist, and I don't think they have another Obama. I've always feared that they were going to run Michelle Obama or Michael Obama, whichever its name is. But the issue with Michael Obama is Michael Obama doesn't want the job. And also, she doesn't really have the temperament for it either. So I think when all's said and done, this is where, like, Biden doesn't even know where he's going. Like, he's literally trying to figure out, like, where's where and where's what and up and down. As I said, when, like, you see him, he doesn't even know what's going on. He's just... Now, let's tune in for a minute. I'll stop it when there's a bit of clapping or if I want to say something. Biden just literally shook McCarthy's hands 3 times.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you.
Biden is the perfect couple because they have dirt and they have everything from all angles.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and the distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States.
Funny enough, they've wondered at times whether the president's not allowed in Congress unless he's invited. Weird enough. So there's been a couple times they thought a speaker would just tell him to fuck off and that he's not allowed.
Thank you.
I thought Nancy Pelosi would do it to Trump, but she wound up not doing it.
Thank you. Please. Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, good to see you guys up there.
They might as well be like our first man and our second cuck. Like, I mean, could you imagine how sad it must be to be Kamala Harris's husband, especially during all of this? They won't give it to Hillary because she's disliked
By the way, Chief
enough.
Justice, I may need a court order. She gets to go to the game tomorrow, next week. I have to stay home. Got to work something out here. Members of the Cabinet, leaders of our military, Chief Justice, Associate Justice, and retired Justice of the Supreme Court, and to you, my fellow Americans. You know, I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy.
I know a lot of guys are cucks. Like, look, there are plenty of people that would be more than happy to take his spot. You know, like...
Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you. And I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
I'm surprised he remembered his name, but I think we're going to see a lot of this over and over and over again. Is he's going to constantly point out all of the black, Spanish, gay, trans people that he appointed. So he's going to constantly mention the first this, the first that. He's going to be like, and today we are being presided over by the first black janitor in the building.
Congratulations to the longest serving leader in the history of the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell. Where are you, Mitch? And congratulations to Chuck Schumer, another, another term as Senate Minority Leader.
Look at Harris; she's freaking out because he's starting to lose it early.
You have a slightly bigger majority, Mr. Leader. You're the majority leader. About that much bigger?
I don't know what happened to Schumer's neck. He looks like Fester.
I want to give special recognition to someone who I think is going to be
listen to Biden's voice. He's starting to lose it. It's starting to come off the rails already.
Pelosi.
I didn't think he would lose it this early, but he's already starting to lose what he has to say.
Folks, the story of America is a story of progress and resilience, of always moving forward, of never, ever giving up. It's a story unique among all nations. We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it. Look, folks, that's what we're doing again. 2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs. More jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years because of you all, because of the American people.
Which is a complete lie, and he knows it's a complete lie, but it doesn't matter.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I think they have one of those like squeezies on them, like a morphine drip, where they give them like a shot of the
COVID
Adderall.
had shut down. Our businesses were closed. Our schools were robbed of so much. And today, COVID no longer controls our lives. And 2 years ago, democracy faced its greatest threat since the Civil War. And today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
Listen to him, the greatest threat since the Civil War. You know? I like that McCarthy isn't standing up and clapping for him, but it would be cooler if McCarthy gave him a finger. But
we're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I can define it in one word, and I mean this: possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility. You know, we're often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong. Yes, we disagreed plenty. And yes, there were times when Democrats went alone. But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together to defend a stronger and safer Europe. You came together to pass once in a generation infrastructure law, building bridges connecting our nation and our people. We came together to pass the most significant law ever, helping victims exposed to toxic burn pits. And in fact, it was important.
Yeah, he's starting to come off. Look at that thing.
And in fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president. From reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, the Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love. And to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well. I think folks, you all are as formed as I am, but I think the people sent us a clear message. Fighting for the sake of fighting, power for the sake of power, conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country. We've been sent here to finish the job, in my view. For decades, the middle class has been hollowed out in more than, and not no one administration, but for a long time. Too many good-paying manufacturing jobs move overseas. Factories closed down. Once thriving cities and towns that many of you represent became shadows of what they used to be. And along the way, something else we lost: pride, our sense of self-worth. I ran for president to fundamentally change things, to make sure our economy works for everyone, so we can all feel that pride in what we do. To build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well.
Look at Bernie with the pelican mask.
I know a lot of you always kid me for always quoting my dad, but my dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck.
This means this is a lie.
He really would say this. It's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, folks, so let's look at the results. We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low.
As I said, they've recalculated how they consider an unemployment rate. And now there are more people that aren't even looking for a job than ever existed in history.
Near record unemployment for Black and Hispanic workers. We've already created, your help, 800,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs, the fastest growth in 40 years. And where is it written? Where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? And I don't know where that's written. For too many decades, we imported projects and exported jobs. Now, thanks to what you've all done, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Folks, inflation has been a global problem because the pandemic disrupted our supply chains, and Putin's unfair and brutal war in Ukraine disrupted energy supplies as well as food supplies, blocking all that grain in Ukraine. But we're better positioned than any country on earth right now. But we have more to do. But here at home, inflation is coming down. Here at home, gas prices are down $1.50 from their peak. Food inflation is coming down, not fast enough, but coming down. Inflation has fallen every month for the last 6 months. while take-home pay has gone up. Additionally, over the last 2 years, a record 10 million Americans applied to start new businesses. 10 million.
Yeah, you know what? That's another lie. Is that the 10 million number comes because in California and New York, they stopped allowing you to freelance without declaring yourself a business. So every Uber driver and every Lyft driver is now a small business.
For leading that effort to ensure that small businesses have access to capital and the historic laws we enacted that are going to just come into being. Standing here last year, I shared with you a story of American genius and possibilities. Semiconductors, small computer chips the size of a fingerprint that power everything, from cell phones to automobiles and so much more. These chips were invented in America. Let's get that straight. They were invented in America. We used to make 40% of the world's chips. In the last several decades, we lost our edge. We're down to only producing 10%. We all saw what happened during the pandemic when chip factories shut down overseas. Today's automobiles need 3,000 chips, each of those automobiles. But American automobiles couldn't make enough cars because there weren't enough chips. Car prices went up, people got laid off, so did everything from refrigerators to cell phones. We can never let that happen again. That's why we came together to pass the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act.
You know, this is another one of those weird things. It's true about computer chips that it would be better if they manufactured here. There's a reason why they don't, though. We don't have the rare earth minerals to do. We're going to make sure the supply chain for America begins in America. The supply chain begins in America.
No, it doesn't. We don't have the equipment to do it.
We've already created. We've already created 800,000 new manufacturing jobs without this law, before the law kicks in. With this new law, we're going to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs across the country. And I mean all across the country, throughout not just the coast, but through the middle of the country as well. That's going to come from companies that have announced more than $300 billion in investment in American manufacturing over the next few years. Outside of Columbus, Ohio, Intel is building semiconductor factories on 1,000 acres, literally a field of dreams. It's going to create 10,000 jobs, that one investment, 7,000 construction jobs, 3,000 jobs in those factories once they're finished. They call them factories. Jobs paying an average of $130,000 a year, and many do not require a college degree.
What he's also failing to mention on this whole thing, and Ultra T, you're dead right, we haven't had the workers since they started measuring the numbers. We've been short of million skilled labor jobs, workers in this country since they started keeping records.
And it's just getting started. Think about the new homes, the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses, so much more that's going to be needed to support those 3,000 permanent jobs and the factories that are going to be built. Talk to mayors and governors, Democrats and Republicans, and they'll tell you what this means for their communities. We're seeing these field of dreams transform to the heartland. But to maintain the strongest economy in the world, we need the best infrastructure in the world. And folks,
yeah, that's also the part he's not mentioning, is they'll build all of these factories to do all of this shit, and then as soon as the government support drops off in about 5 years, they'll shutter them and they'll automate whatever they can and just import the jobs, export the jobs.
The United States of America, 13th in the world in infrastructure, modern infrastructure. But now we're coming back because we came together and passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, the largest investment in infrastructure since President Eisenhower's interstate highway system.
I mean, can you look more unenergetic than Kamala Harris? She looks like getting up to clap is a chore.
We've funded over 20,000 projects, including major airports from Boston to Atlanta to Portland. Projects that are going to put thousands of people to work rebuilding our highways, our bridges, our railroads, our tunnels, ports, airports, clean water, high-speed internet, all across America. Urban, rural, tribal. And folks, We're just getting started. We're just getting started. And I mean it sincerely. I want to thank my Republican friends who voted for the law.
Maxine Waters looks like a melting candle.
My Republican friends who voted against it as well. But I still get asked to fund the projects in those districts as well. But don't worry. I promised I'd be a president for all Americans. We'll fund these projects. And I'll see you at the groundbreaking. Look.
Kamala Harris thought that her job of getting on her knees and sucking dick for advancement was over. But that's what her job permanently is right now.
Projects like Brent Spence Bridge in Kentucky over the Ohio River, built 60 years ago, badly needed repairs, one of the nation's most congested freight routes, carrying $2 billion worth of freight every single day across the Ohio River. And folks, we've been talking about fixing it for decades, but we're really finally going to get it done. I went there last month with Democrats and Republicans, and from both states, to deliver a commitment of $1.6 billion for this project.
For a bridge. $1.6 billion for a bridge.
There, I met a young woman named Sarah, who's here tonight. I don't know where Sarah is. Is she up in the box? I don't know. Sarah, how are you? Well, Sarah, for 30 years.
Told you, this is token African American part 2.
She told me she'd been a proud member of the Iron Workers Local 44, known as the Cowboys in the Sky.
Yep, she's part of the Iron Workers. I guarantee you she either holds street signs or is a secretary.
Built
No
Cincinnati's skyline. Sarah said she can't wait to be 10 stories above the Ohio River building that new bridge. God bless her. That's pride. And that's what we're also building. We're building back pride. Look, we're also replacing poisonous lead pipes that go into 10 million homes in America, 400,000 school and child care centers. So every child in America can drink the water. Instead of
they haven't been able to do that even once yet.
Look,
in fact, they've made most of them worse.
We're making sure.
Like in Flint, Michigan, and in Mississippi and elsewhere, they have never once been able to actually replace a full lead piping system. And every time they've tried, they made it worse.
America has access to affordable high-speed internet. No parent should have to drive by McDonald's parking lot to help them do their homework online with their kids.
Nobody does that.
Many thousands were doing across the country. And when we do these projects, and again, I get criticized for this, but I make no excuses for it. We're going to buy American. We're going to buy America.
Number one, American manufacturing doesn't make those parts. Number two, he's talking about high-speed internet as if Starlink isn't a thing right now. The idea that we're going to lay more fiber in order to get to rural America, by the time it's laid, it won't be worth anything
anymore. For too long, past administrations, Democrat and Republican, not anymore. Tonight, I'm announcing new standards that require all construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America.
He can't announce that. We don't have those infrastructure projects.
Made in America.
We don't have the materials.
I mean it.
So what they'll do is the way that they consider it made in America is it'll be 99% made overseas. It'll come here and they'll put like a spray on it.
And on my watch, American roads, bridges, and American highways are going to be made with American products as well. Folks, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. So many of you listening to me tonight, I know you feel it. So many of you felt like you've just simply been forgotten. Amid the economic upheaval of the past 4 decades, too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home.
In all honesty, no one has been left behind.
Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you? The folks at home remember them. You wonder whether the path even exists anymore for your children to get ahead without having to move away. Well, that's why I get that. That's why we're building an economy where no one's left behind.
Sure.
Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back. Because choices we made in the last several years.
He's trying to make it. He's trying to do a Reagan type thing right now.
My view of a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America. and make a real difference in your lives at home. For example, too many of you lay in bed at night like my dad did, staring at the ceiling, wondering what in God's name happens if your spouse gets cancer or your child gets deadly ill.
Look at Fetterman. Fetterman
or something
literally is an
happens to
alien.
you. What are you going to have? You get money to pay for those medical bills? Or are you going to have to sell the house or try to get a second mortgage on it? I get it. I get it. With the Inflation Reduction Act that I signed into law, we're taking on powerful interests to bring health care costs down so you can sleep better at night with more security.
That's actually bullshit,
You know,
too.
we pay
What he
more
wound
for
up doing
prescription
is
drugs
now more people
than
on
any
Medicare and
nation
Medicaid,
in the world.
and less
Say it
doctors
again.
are taking it, and
We
it's going
pay
to
more
keep
for
going down
prescription
because
drugs
they're
than any major
because they're
nation
going to
on
keep
earth. For
negotiating
example,
prices that
one in 10
providers
Americans
won't
has
accept.
diabetes. Many of you in this chamber do, and in the audience. But every day, millions need insulin to control their diabetes so they can literally stay alive. Insulin's been around for over 100 years. The guy who invented it didn't even patent it because he wanted it to be available for everyone.
He originally claimed he spoke
cost
to
the
him,
drug
even though he died
companies
before Biden was
roughly
born.
$10 a vial to make that insulin. Packaging and all, you may get up to $13. But Big Pharma has been unfairly charging people hundreds of dollars, $400 to $500 a month, making record profits. Not anymore. Not anymore.
This is when they start to cheer price controls, and what's really fucked up is that even McCarthy's cheering for this, and so are Republicans. This is a really bad thing because all they're doing is they'll lower the cost of insulin, and they'll just raise the prices of everything else.
So many things that we did are only now coming to fruition. We said we were doing this, and we said we passed the law to do it, but people didn't know because the law didn't take effect until January 1 of this year. We capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors on Medicare. People are just finding out. I'm sure you're getting the same calls I'm getting. Look, there are millions of other Americans who do not or are not on Medicare, including 200,000 young people with type 1 diabetes who need this insulin to stay alive. Let's finish the job this time. Let's cap the cost of insulin for everybody at $35.
Again, he doesn't. That's just money printer go bird. Like if you're going to cap the price for everybody, they'll just increase prices elsewhere.
And Big Pharma's still going to do very well. I promise you all. I promise you, they're going to do very well. This law also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. Costs, out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare at a maximum of $2,000 a year. You don't have to pay more than $2,000 a year, no matter how much your drug costs are. Because you know why? You all know it. Many of you, like many in my family, have cancer. You know the drugs can range from $10,000, $11,000, $14,000, $15,000 for the cancer drugs. If drug prices rise faster than inflation, drug companies are going to have to pay Medicare back the difference. We're finally.
Yeah, that part of the law is really going to fuck people
the power
over
to
too.
negotiate drug prices. Bringing down prescription drug costs doesn't just save seniors money. It cuts the federal deficit by billions of dollars.
No, it actually doesn't.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
It just makes them raise prices elsewhere, and it limits the amount of people that they'll take, and it limits the amount of drugs that they'll offer.
To keep their commitment to the seniors. Well, guess what? Instead of paying $400 or $500 a month, you're paying $15. That's a lot of savings for the federal government. And by the way, why wouldn't we want that? Now, some members here are threatening, and I know it's not an official party position, so I'm going to exaggerate, but threatening to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. As my coach, that's okay, that's fair. As my football coach used to say, lots of luck in your senior year. Make no mistake, If you try anything to raise the cost of producing jobs, I will veto it. Look, I'm pleased to say that more Americans have health insurance now than ever in history. A record 16 million people are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act. And thanks to the law I signed last year, millions are saving $800 a year on their premiums. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. So my plea to some of you, at least in this audience, let's finish the job and make these savings permanent.
Again, he's doing the Used Car Salesman Act. What he did is they raised the price of health insurance so high that when they cut it by $800, they just cut what was already ridiculously high,
The
and they
Inflation
just
Reduction
put
Act
copays
is
up.
also the most significant investment ever in climate change. Ever. Lowering utility bills, creating American jobs, leading the world to a clean energy future. I visited the devastating aftermath of record floods, droughts, storms, and wildfires from Arizona to Mexico to all the way up to the Canadian border. More timber has been burned, as I've observed from helicopters, than the entire state of Missouri. And we don't have global warming? Not a problem. In addition to emergency recovery, from Puerto Rico to Florida to Idaho, we're rebuilding for the long term. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent those forest fires. Roads and water systems withstand the next big flood. Clean energy to cut pollution and create jobs in communities often left behind. We're going to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations installed across the country by tens of thousands of IBEW workers. And we're helping families save more than $1,000 a year with tax credits to purchase electric vehicles and efficient appliances, energy-efficient appliances. Historic conservation efforts to be responsible stewards of our land. Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state.
There is no climate
It's an
crisis, but
existential
even
threat.
if there were, the idea that putting
We have
more
an
electric
obligation,
vehicles
not
on
to
the
ourselves,
road
but
is
to our
going to
children
help
and
that. It's going to make it
grandchildren
10
to confront
times
it.
worse. And he knows that.
I'm proud of how America at last is stepping up to the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No, we do. But there's so much more to do. We got to finish the job. And we pay for these investments in our future by finally making the wealthiest and biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share. Just begin. Look, I'm a capitalist. I'm a capitalist, but pay your fair share. I
Notice
think a
how
lot of
they
you at
never,
home,
ever define
a lot
what
of you
fair
at home
share
agree with me and
is.
many people that you know. The tax system is not fair. It is not fair.
It's not fair that 1%, I mean 50% of the people in this country pay
Look.
all of the taxes for the other people. We have the most progressive
The
tax system
idea
in the entire world.
That in 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes? Zero? Folks, it's simply not fair. But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them. 15%. That's less than a nurse pays. And let me be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning, under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny.
Because they figured out how to shift the tax burden
Let's
without
finish the
actually
job.
without
There's
actually
more to
raising
do.
taxes. They just do it through inflation. So they tax
We
your
have to
savings.
reward work, not just wealth. Pass my proposal for the billionaire minimum tax. You know, there's 1,000 billionaires in America. It's up from about 600 in the beginning of the term. But no billionaire should be paying a lower tax rate than a school teacher or a firefighter. I mean it. Think about it.
No billionaire does pay a lower rate. They don't hold their money as salary. They don't get paid a salary. nor do they get paid in anything. So
I know you aren't enthusiastic about that, but think about it. Think about it. Have you noticed Big Oil just reported its profits, record profits? Last year they made $200 billion in the midst of a global energy crisis. I think it's outrageous. Why? They invested too little of that profit to increase domestic production. And when I talk to a couple of them, they say, we're afraid you're going to shut down all the oil wells, all the oil refineries anyway, so why should we invest in them? I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade. And that's going to exceed, and beyond that, we're going to need it. Production. If they had, in fact, invested in the production to keep gas prices down.
That was funny. They just laughed at them.
They used the record profits to buy back their own stock, rewarding their CEOs and shareholders. Corporations ought to do the right thing. That's why I propose we quadruple the tax on corporate stock buybacks and encourage long-term investments. They'll still make considerable profit.
The party's not telling you is there never has been a tax on stock buybacks. There's no reason why there should be. The 1% tax on corporate stock buybacks started this month.
I just signed a law to reduce the deficit by $114 billion by cracking down on wealthy tax cheats.
82,000 IRS agents. 82,000.
In the last 2 years, my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion.
No, you didn't.
The largest deficit reduction in American history. Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4 years in a row. Because those record deficits, no president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor. Nearly 25% of the entire national debt that took over 200 years to accumulate was added by just one administration alone, the last one. They're the facts. Check it out. Check it out. How did Congress respond to that debt? They did the right thing. They lifted the debt ceiling 3 times without preconditions or crisis. They paid American bills to prevent an economic disaster in the country.
I mean, the part that he's not telling you is that during the time where they raised all of this debt.
Let's commit here tonight to the full faith and credit of the United States of America will never, ever be questioned. So some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
Wow. I've never heard them boo a guy like that.
Anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't.
Wow, they're actually calling him a liar. This is kind of cool.
Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them.
Oh, he's arguing with him. He's going off the rails. This is fun.
Look, folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks, as we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be stopped. All right.
They already announced that Social Security and Medicare were off the books anyway. It didn't even matter.
We got unanimity. Social Security and Medicare are a lifeline for millions of seniors. Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they started. So tonight, let's all agree, and we apparently are, let's stand up for seniors.
Oh yeah, all you have to do is mention old people and everybody's on their feet.
Stand up and show them. We will not cut Social Security. We will not cut Medicare. Those benefits belong to the American people. They earned it. And if anyone tries to cut Social Security, which apparently no one's going to do, and if anyone tries to cut Medicare, I'll stop them. I'll veto it. And look, I'm not going to allow them to be taken away. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But apparently it's not going to be a problem. Next month, when I offer my fiscal plan, I ask my Republican friends to lay down their plan as well. I really mean it. Let's sit down together and discuss our mutual plans together. Let's do that. I can tell you, the plan I'm going to show you is going to cut the deficit by another $2 trillion. And it won't cut a single bit of Medicare or Social Security. In fact, we're going to extend the Medicare Trust Fund at least 2 decades, because that's going to be the next argument. How do we keep it solvent, right? Well, we'll not raise tax on anyone making under 400 grand, but we'll pay for it the way we talked about tonight, by making sure that the wealthy and big corporations pay their fair share. Look.
He's promising to raise taxes on everybody. This is, by the way, how every tax is in the whole entire world.
They're taking advantage of you, the American consumer. Here's my message to all of you out there. I have your back. We're already preventing Americans from receiving surprise medical bills, stopping $1 billion surprise bills per month so far.
I don't know how you stop a surprise bill.
Seniors' life savings by cracking down on nursing homes that commit fraud, endanger patient safety, prescribe drugs that are not needed. Millions of Americans can now save thousands of dollars because they can finally get a hearing aid over the counter without a prescription. Look, capitalism without competition is not capitalism. It's extortion. It's exploitation. Last year, I cracked down with the help of many of you on foreign shipping companies that were making you pay higher prices for every good coming into the country. I signed a bipartisan bill that cut shipping costs by 90%, helping American farmers, businessmen, and consumers. Let's finish the job. Pass the bipartisan legislation to strengthen antitrust enforcement and prevent big online platforms from giving their own products an unfair advantage. My administration is also taking on junk fees, those hidden surcharges too many companies use to make you pay more. For example, we're making airlines show you the full ticket price up front, refund your money if your flight is canceled or delayed. We've reduced exorbitant bank overdrafts by saving consumers more than $1 billion a year. We're cutting credit card late fees by 75%, from $30 to $8.
I love how they're cutting it. How are they cutting it? They're just mandating it. It's called price control.
Junk fees may not matter to the very wealthy, but they matter to most other folks in homes like the one I grew up in, like many of you did. They add up to hundreds of dollars a month. They make it harder for you to pay your bills or afford that family trip. I know how unfair it feels when a company overcharges you and gets away with it. Not anymore. We've written a bill to stop it all. It's called the Junk Fee Prevention Act. We're going to ban surprise resort fees that hotels charge on your bill. Those fees can cost you up to $90 a night.
Andy, you can be right about something and still find the solution to be wrong. The idea that you can just tell all the businesses what they can charge or not charge for their products
can charge you $200 or more if you decide to switch to another provider. Give me a break. We can stop service fees on tickets to concerts and sporting events and make companies disclose all the fees up front. And we'll prohibit airlines from charging $50 round trip for a family just to be able to sit together. Baggage fees are bad enough. Airlines can't treat your child like a piece of baggage. Americans are tired of being. We're tired of being played for suckers. So pass the Junk Fee Prevention Act so companies stop ripping us off. For too long, workers have been getting stiffed, but not anymore. We're beginning to restore the dignity of work. For example, I should have known this, but I didn't until 2 years ago. 30 million workers have to sign non-compete agreements for the jobs they take. 30 million. So a cashier at a burger place can't walk across town and take the same job at another burger place and make a few bucks more.
That is a complete lie. There is no such thing as a non-compete
to.
clause for a cashier at a burger place.
That was part of the deal, guys. Look it up. But not anymore. We're banning those agreements, so companies have to compete for workers and pay them what they're worth. And I must tell you, this is bound to get a response from my friends on my left but the right. I'm so sick and tired of companies breaking the law by preventing workers from organizing. Pass the PRO Act.
Not going to
Because
happen.
businesses have a right. Workers have a right to form a union.
Not only are there no non-competes for Burger King, it's against the law. You can't pick a non-compete for a job that has no
Let's make sure working
proprietary
parents can
information.
afford to raise a family with sick days, paid family medical leave, affordable child care. That's going to enable millions of more people to go and stay at work. And let's restore the full child tax credit, which gave tens of millions of parents some breathing room and cut child poverty in half to the lowest level in history. And by the way, when we do all these things, we increase productivity, we increase economic growth. So let's finish the job and get more families access to affordable, quality housing. Let's get seniors who want to stay in their homes the care they need to do so. Let's give more breathing room to millions of family caregivers looking after their loved ones. Pass my plan so we get seniors and people with disabilities the home care and services they need. And support the workers who are doing
Here comes the
work.
Gibbs. We knew that they were coming to this. Please pass more
These plans
Gibbs,
are
more
fully
money.
paid for, and we can afford to do them. Restoring the dignity of work means making education an affordable ticket to the middle class. You know, when we made public education, 12 years of it, universal in the last century, we made the best educated, best paid, we became the best educated, best paid nation in the world.
That's not even close to
The
true.
rest of the world's caught up. It's caught up. Jill, my wife, who teaches full time, has an expression. I hope I get it right, kid. Any nation that out-educates us is going to out-compete us. Any nation out-educates
All of
is going
them
to out-compete
out-educate us.
Folks, we all know 12 years of education is not enough to win the economic competition of the 21st century.
Yes, it more than enough is. If you stop
We wanna have the best
teaching
educated
bullshit
workforce.
at school,
Let's finish the job by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2 or 4 year degree, no matter their background they came from. Let's give public school teachers a raise.
more public school money. Here we go.
We're making progress by reducing student debt, increasing Pell Grants for working and middle-class families. Let's finish the job and connect students to career opportunities starting in high school. Provide access to 2 years of community college, the best career training in America in addition to being a pathway to a 4-year degree. Let's offer every American a path to a good career, whether they go to college or not. And folks, in the midst of the COVID crisis, when schools were closed and we were shutting down everything, let's recognize how far we came in the fight against the pandemic itself. While the virus is not gone,
why would you want to
thanks
give
to the
teachers
resilience
more
of the
money?
American people,
The teachers
the
are on the
ingenuity
front line of the
medicine,
culture war,
we
fucking
broke
over
the
our
COVID
kids.
grip
Why
on
would
us.
you want to give them more money?
COVID deaths are down by 90%. We've saved millions of lives and opened up.
I would rather
we opened
starve
our
them out of
country
money.
back up.
Fuck these
And
teachers.
soon we'll end the public health emergency. But that's called a public health emergency. But we'll remember a toll and pain that's never going to go away. More than 1 million Americans lost their lives to COVID. 1 million. Families grieving, children orphaned, empty chairs at the dining room table constantly reminding you that she used to sit there. Remembering them, we remain vigilant. We still need to monitor dozens of variants and support new vaccines and treatments. So Congress needs to fund these efforts and keep America safe.
Fuck
And as
you.
we emerge from this crisis
Seriously, fuck
stronger, we're also got to double down on prosecuting criminals who stole relief money meant to keep workers and small businesses afloat.
You. We need to double down on it. They haven't prosecuted hardly anyone. They prosecuted like 10 people. And there's nothing more they can do because no one has any clue where any of that money went. No one has any clue who even got it.
Before I came to office, you remember, during that campaign, the big issue was about inspector generals who would protect taxpayers' dollars who were sidelined. They were fired. Many people said we don't need them. And fraud became rampant. Last year, I told you the watchdogs are back. Since then, we've recovered billions of taxpayers' dollars.
No, we haven't.
Now let's triple the anti-fraud strike force going after these criminals, double the statute of limitations on these crimes, and crack down on identity fraud by criminal syndicates stealing billions of dollars from the American people. And the data shows that for every dollar we put into fighting fraud, the taxpayers get back at least 10 times as much. It matters. It matters. Look, COVID left its scars. Like
no,
the spike
the
in violent
response
crime
to
in
COVID
2020,
left its scars.
the first year of the pandemic. We have an obligation to make sure all people are safe. Public safety depends on public trust, as all of us know. But too often that trust is violated. Joining us tonight are the parents of Tyree Nichols. Welcome. We had to bury Tyree last week.
Here we come.
As many
Here we
of
come
you
to the.
personally know, there's no words to describe the heartache or grief of losing a child. But imagine if you lost that child at the hands of the law. Imagine having to worry whether your son or daughter came home from walking down the street, playing in the park, or just driving a car. Most of us in here have never had to have the talk that brown and black parents have had to have with their children.
Because
Bo,
brown and black
Hunter,
parents don't
Ashley,
need to
my
have
children.
it either.
I never had to have the talk with them. I never had to tell them if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away. Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Imagine having to worry like that every single time your kid got in a car.
Now
Here's
it's going
what
to start
Tyree's
whispering.
mother shared with me when I spoke to her. When I asked her how she finds the courage to carry on and speak out. The faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this. Imagine how much courage and character that takes. It's up to us, to all of us. We all want the same thing.
You know
Neighborhoods
what?
free of violence.
I am perfectly comfortable
Law
with this.
enforcement
Defund all the cops.
earns
Let
the
the
community's
cities
trust.
burn. I could
Just
absolutely
as
give
every
a
cop
flying
with a pin on
fuck.
that badge in the
They're
morning
not
has the right to be able to
defunding
go home at night.
rural places.
So
They're
does
not
everybody
defunding
else
the
out
places where my people live. I
Our
could give a
children
flying fuck.
have a right
Go
to come
for
home
it.
safely.
Defund away. Defund Memphis. Defund
Equal
St. Louis.
protection
Defund Chicago.
under the law
Defund
is
New
a
York.
covenant
I'm fine with it.
we
Knock
have with
yourself
each other
out.
in America.
Stop having the talk. Start talking to your kids about the fact that now you don't have to
We
be scared of the
know.
cops. Now you have to be scared of everyone else
Police
who's
officers
murdering
put
you
their
on the
lives on
street.
the line every single
Fuck
night and
these
day.
people.
And we know we ask them in many cases to do too much to be counselors, social workers, psychologists, responding to drug overdoses, mental health crises, and so much more. In one sense, we ask much too much of them. I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people. the
No,
vast
they are
majority.
not.
But they risk And they risk their lives every time they put that shield on. But what happened to Tyree in Memphis happens too often.
No, it really doesn't.
We have to do better. Give law enforcement the real training they need. Hold them to higher standards. Help them succeed in keeping us safe. We also need more first responders and professionals to address the growing mental health, substance abuse challenges. More resources to reduce violent crime and gun crime. More community intervention programs. More investment in housing, education, and job training.
The FBI is going to have a bigger building than the Pentagon.
Can help prevent violence in the first place. When police officers or police departments violate the public trust, they must be held accountable.
I say do it. Go for it. Hold them accountable. There's nothing you can do to prevent crime except for locking up criminals. And you know what? Knock yourselves out. Train harder. Hold them accountable. Make it so that becoming a cop is something nobody fucking wants to do.
Executive order.
Then you won't have your stormtroopers to come in and fuck with us. Fuck you and fuck them.
Restricting no-knock warrants and other key elements of the George Floyd Act. Let's commit ourselves to make the words of Tyler's mom true. Something good must come from this. Something good. And all of us, folks, it's difficult, but it's simple. All of us in this chamber, we need to rise to this moment. We can't turn away. Let's do what we know in our hearts that we need to do. Let's come together to finish the job on police reform. Do something. Do something. That was the plea of parents who lost their children in Uvalde. I met with every one of them. Do something about gun violence. Thank God. Thank God we did. Passing the most sweeping gun safety law in 3 decades. That includes things like that the majority of responsible gun owners already support. Enhanced background checks for 18 to 21 years old. Red
No
flag
one supports
laws,
that. No one
keeping
supports
guns out of the
that.
hands of people who are a danger to themselves and others.
No one
But we
supports
know
that.
our work is not done. Joining us tonight is Brandon Say, a 26-year-old hero. Brandon put his college dreams on hold to be at his mom's side. His mom's side when she was dying from cancer. And Brandon,
Why are we applauding someone who took care of their mother? Is that like such a huge sacrifice? Like, you should be fucking happy to do that.
And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio door close, and he saw a man standing there pointing a semi-automatic pistol at him. He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the courage to act and wrestled a semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman who had already killed 11 people in another dance studio. 11. He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now.
Didn't he just say it was a semi-automatic pistol, but then he says ban assault weapons?
I led the fight to do that in 1994. And in 10 years, that ban was law and mass shootings went down. After we let it expire in the Republican administration, mass shootings tripled. Let's finish the job and ban these assault weapons. And let's also come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again.
Immigration, the bipartisan issue.
We now have a record number of personnel working to secure the border, arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months. We've launched a new border plan last month. Unlawful migration from Cuba Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela has come down 97% as a consequence of that.
Because he just lets them all in. That's the part he's not saying. Those countries, he just said those people can just come in.
If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform, at least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border. And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Here in the People's House, it's our duty to protect all the people's rights and freedoms. Congress must restore the right and Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade.
Oh God! We knew this was coming. I mean, this is just a talking point thing, but whatever.
The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. But already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it.
If Congress passes a national ban, the Supreme Court will veto it. They said it's not Congress's business to pass these kind of laws.
Let's also pass the Bipartisan Equality Act to ensure LGBTQ Americans, especially transgender young people, can live with safety and dignity.
No, don't pass that. You can go fuck yourself. You actually want to mutilate children.
Our strength is not just the example
God,
of our
what
power,
is cinema doing?
but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching.
I don't know how to do a poll, but let's say cinema, smash or dash.
Just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. A murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Will we stand for sovereignty? Will we stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Will we stand for the defense of democracy? For such defense matters to us because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity. 1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would, and we did. We did. And together, we did what America always does at our best. We led.
We led.
We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people. Tonight, we're once again joined by Ukrainian's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. Our ambassador is here, united. We're united in our support of your country. Will you stand so we can all take a look at you?
Yeah, we're united in support of you. Fuck you and your country. Seriously, Putin is 10 times stronger than before that. They're saying, like, new intelligence reports are coming out. They're saying Ukrainians losing troops 10-1. And all we've done is dump endless amounts of money.
Our nation's working for more freedom, more dignity, more peace, not just in Europe, but everywhere. Before I came to office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power and America was failing in the world. Not anymore.
Oh, yeah, not anymore.
We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition, not conflict. But I will make no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries that will define the future that China intends to be dominating. Investing in our alliances and working with our allies to protect advanced technologies so they will not be used against us. Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression. Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world.
That is an absolute lie. We are absolutely not in the position to compete with anyone.
I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world. But make no mistake about it, As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did. Look, let's be clear.
Did you guys hear China's asking for the balloon back? They say it's not our property. We face serious
challenges across the world. But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker. Autocracy has grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one. America's rallying the world to meet those challenges, from climate to global health, to food insecurity, to terrorism, to territorial aggression. Allies are stepping up, spending more and doing more.
No, they're not.
Look, the bridges we're forming between partners in the Pacific and those in the Atlantic, and those who bet against America are learning how wrong they are. It's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. Never. Well, when I came to office, most assured that bipartisanship assumed was impossible, but never believed it. That's why a year ago I offered a unity agenda to the nation as I stood here. We made real progress together. We passed a law making it easy for doctors to prescribe effective treatments for opioid addiction. We passed the gun safety law, making historic investments in mental health. We launched the ARPA-H drive for breakthrough in the fights against cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes, and so much more. We passed the Heath Robinson PACT Act, named after the late Iraq War veteran whose story about exposure to toxic burn kits I shared here last year. I understand something about those burn pits, but there's so much more to do. We can do it together. Joining us tonight is a father named Doug from Newton, New Hampshire.
The fuck is
He
Doug?
wrote Jill, my wife, a letter, and me as well, about his courageous daughter, Courtney. A contagious laugh, his sister's best friend, her sister's best friend. He shared a story all too familiar to millions of Americans and many of you in the audience. Courtney discovered pills in high school. It spiraled into addiction and eventually death from a fentanyl overdose. She was just 20 years old. Describing the last 8 years without her, Doug said, "There's no worse pain." Yet their family has turned pain to purpose, working to end the stigma and change laws. He told us he wants to start a journey toward American recovery. Doug, we're with you. Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year.
And you are doing it. Literally, you are doing it.
You got it.
Wow, they're really going at him.
So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production and the sale and trafficking, with more drug detection machines, inspection cargo, stop pills and powder at the border. Working with couriers like FedEx to inspect more packages for drugs. Strong penalties to crack down on fentanyl trafficking. Second, let's do more on mental health, especially for our children. When millions of young people are struggling with bullying, violence, trauma, we give them greater access to mental health care at their schools.
How about we just give them access to manning the fuck up and learning how to account for...
running children for profit.
How about we start making people just take responsibility?
To stop big tech from collecting personal data on our kids and teenagers.
I'd be fine with that. I'd stand up and clap for that shit.
Advertising to children and impose stricter limits on the personal data that companies collect on all of us. Third, let's do more to keep this nation's one truly sacred obligation to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home. Job training, job placement for veterans and their spouses as they come to return to civilian life. Helping veterans afford the rent because no one should be homeless in America, especially someone who served the country.
This is the once-a-year circle jerk that everyone has to do, where they start talking about how much they care about veterans, the people they give the least amount of shits about.
Dennis McDonough is here, of the VA. We had a first real discussion when I asked him to take the job. I'm glad he did. We were losing up to 25 veterans a day on suicide. Now we're losing 17 a day to the silent scourge of suicide. 17 veterans a day are committing suicide. More than all the people being killed in the wars. Folks, VA is doing everything it can, including expanding mental health screening.
The VA is doing
programs
nothing.
that recruits veterans to help other veterans understand what they're going through, get them the help they need. We got to do more. And fourth, last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot that I was able to start with President Obama asked me to lead our administration on this issue. Our goal is to cut the cancer death rates at least by 50% in the next 25 years. Turn more cancers from death sentences to treatable diseases. Provide more support for patients and their families. It's personal to so many of us in this audience. Joining us are Morris and Candice, an Irishman and the daughter of immigrants from Panama. They met and fell in love in New York City and got married in the same chapel Jill and I got married in New York City. Kindred spirits. He wrote us a letter about his little daughter, Ava, and I saw her just before I came over. She was just a year old when she was diagnosed with rare kidney disease, cancer. After 26 blood transfusions, 11 rounds of radiation, 8 rounds of chemo, 1 kidney removed, given a 5% survival rate. He wrote how in the darkest moments he thought, if she goes, I can't stay. Many of you have been through that as well. Jill and I understand that like so many of you. And he read Jill's book describing our family's cancer journey and how we tried to steal moments of joy where we could with Bo. For them, that glimmer of joy was the half smile of their baby girl.
The U.S. military is 25% under recruitment levels.
They never gave up hope. Little Ava never gave up hope. She turns 4 next month.
After losing a kidney, 23 transfusions, 15 radiations, poor Ava is probably not going to make it. And that's really sad.
And she's watching from the White House tonight if she's not asleep already. For the lives we can save. For the lives we can save and the lives we've lost, let this be a truly American moment that rallies the country and the world together and proves that we can still do big things. 20 years ago, under the leadership of President Bush and countless advocates and champions, he undertook a bipartisan effort through PEPFAR to transform the global fight against HIV/AIDS. It's been a huge success.
It hasn't been a huge success.
He thought large. He moved.
That was the first COVID. HIV/AIDS was Fauci's first COVID. Instead of telling you to put a mask over your face, he told everyone to put one over their dick. And what you've seen is a huge decrease in fertility. You've seen a whole bunch of problems for a disease that doesn't actually kill people.
Folks, there's one reason why we've been able to do all of these things. Our democracy itself.
Oh, God. This is the January 6th shit.
With democracy, everything's possible. Without it, nothing is. The last few years, our democracy has been threatened and attacked, put at risk, put to the test in this very room on January the 6th. And then just a few months ago, an unhinged big lie assailed and unleashed a political violence, the home of the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, using the very same language the insurrectionists used as they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th.
Here we go. Look at Pelosi trying to make herself cry. She's trying to make herself look sad. And there's Paul Pelosi right there.
As strong, as resilient as they get. My friend Paul Pelosi. Paul, stand up.
He's like, I'm so sorry that I let that guy in my house. I only fucked him a few times, and then he hit me with a hammer. I have this habit of picking up
Such a
mentally
heinous
ill
act
people.
should have never happened. We must all speak out. There's no place for political violence in America. We have to protect the right to vote, not suppress the fundamental right. Honor the results of our elections, not subvert the will of the people. We have to uphold the rule of law and restore trust in our institutions of democracy. And we must give hate and extremism in any form no safe harbor.
This is where he announces the crackdowns. Hate, misinformation.
Democracy
Because democracy is
must
worth
not
it.
be a
In order
partisan
for to have
issue.
democracy, we need a
It's an
secret
American
police.
issue. Every generation of Americans has faced a moment where they have been called to protect our democracy, defend it, stand up for it. And this is our moment. My fellow Americans, we meet tonight at an inflection point, one of those moments that only a few generations ever face, where the direction we now take is going to decide the course of this nation for decades to come. We're not bystanders of history. We're not powerless before the forces that confront us. It's within our power of we, the people.
Oh, it's in our power.
We're
We
facing
can
the
do it.
test of our time. We have to be the nation we've always been at our best. Optimistic, hopeful, forward-looking. A nation that embraces light over dark, hope over fear, unity over division, stability over chaos. We have to see each other not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. We're good people.
Now they're letting whatever the
only
little
nation
morphine
in the
drip
world
that's
built on
pumping
an
him his
idea.
drugs run out, because now
The
he's starting to
only
slur.
one. Other nations are defined by geography, ethnicity. But we're the only nation based on an idea
We're not based on an
that
idea.
all of us, every one of us, is created equal in the image of God. A nation that stands as a beacon to the world. A nation in a new age of possibilities. So I've come to fulfill my constitutional obligation to report in the State of the Union. And here's my report. Because the soul of this nation is strong, because the backbone of this nation is strong, because the people of this nation are strong, the State of the Union is strong.
A nation that drugs and mutilates its children, that forces vaccines that kill people.
I'm not new to this place. I stand here tonight having served as long as about any one of you have ever served here.
You
But
served
I've
longer
never
than
been
anyone.
more optimistic about our future, about the future of America. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Well, it's been fun. I'm going to go enjoy my evening. I hope everybody's had fun listening to me kind of bitch about this, but tomorrow we'll be around for the Morning Constitutional. We'll celebrate my birthday more then, and looking forward to talking to everyone then. Have a great night, everybody.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.